That's a good point. Okay, file, close, and then get a new one up.
I don't want to save it. New. We live, yeah, Andy.
We're definitely
now
live.
Streaming.
Oh, what?
We're streaming live on YouTube.
Have you got it? I think you've probably got it open, haven't you, Andy, on some browser.
Yeah, I'm going to close that.
I have as well.
Right.
I'm just going to pull it up and mute it so that I can see the chat.
Yeah, that's true.
The quality is properly bad of my camera, though. I mean, I look awesome on Zoom. I look absolutely shocking on YouTube.
Right. Should we get hit the record button?
Okay. 3, 2, 1, click.
Welcome, Hopheads, to the latest edition or episode of the Hop Edition. This is episode 20, and we'll be taking an intergalactic tour through Germanic beers. I'd just like to introduce my co-hosts from a galaxy far, far away. We have Luke, Leia, and my good self, Han Solo. Sadly,
I am not Leia.
We're missing everyone's favourite Wookiee, Richard Williams, this evening. He couldn't be with us, having just moved house, and I think he's still looking for his microphone in a box somewhere. So you were in for a good night. We'll be talking all things German beers. And so, let's start. What are you drinking, Andy?
Yeah, this is wunderbar. This is Schwarzer beer. It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Move on.
That's almost as bad as Sean Connery's Russian accent, that one. Shocking.
That was Dick Van Dyke. New Cockney.
Yes. Achtung.
Oh dear. 9.
9.
Oh, he's just doubling down.
That's shocking. That's
trying to buy himself out of it.
That's so bad. He's trying. He's failing, but he's trying.
So tell us more.
Oh man, what are you drinking, Owen?
Go on, Andy. Tell us at least a bit about it.
Yeah, Schwarz beer, the Spreadsheet Ninja that we all did at the Life Brew Day. So it's super duper conditioned. I think we brewed this September. So it's got, September, October, November, December, January. So it's about 4 months old. And as any lager should be, it is conditioned tip top. I don't know if you can't really see, but it's black anyway. And it is super chocolatey and crispy. So, yeah. Owen, what about yourself?
This evening, I'm drinking a black IPA. I've had this in keg for a little while. It looks a lot more black on camera. It's probably more a very dark brown. I'm not very happy with the clarity. You know when like you get a dark beer and it's just, you can see it's hazy and it just looks a bit muddy. You know what I mean?
Yeasty.
Shit. Yeah.
Is it yeasty?
Yeah, I think it is. I used so this is the based loosely on the recipe from Elusive Brewing, their black IPA. I've talked about it a lot before, but I changed up the hops. I think I did. They do Citra Mosaic. I did Mosaic and Azaka, and I also used the Verdant IPA yeast, which I co-pitched with some Fike.
Okay. Yeah,
just because I'm a madman.
It's one way of doing it.
Yeah,
I would have probably went USO5 to be fair myself on that one.
I felt fruity on the day, Andy.
Fruity.
Feeling fruity. No, it was just what I had lying around.
Okay, cool.
And it tastes good. It's just the appearance isn't great. So I think it's just like yeast haze. Okay. Yeast haze plus the dry hop, you know. But it's
verdant yeast. So verdant yeast is always pretty cloudy anyway.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
I was never going to drop clear.
But it smells banging. It smells nice and like tropical fruity. You do pick up a hint of the like the roast malt, and in fairness, I added the roasted malt very late, literally for the sparge.
When did you brew this?
I brewed it on one of the live brew days, I think.
Was it the last one?
Was it the last one? No, it wasn't the last one. I think it was the one before that. I did Vacant Gesture in the last one.
Oh, so you did.
But yeah, it's very pleasant. It's quite dry. You do get a little bit of the aroma on the roast aroma on the nose. You get a little bit on the flavour, but for the most part, it's just your standard IPA. Just a little lick.
What
little
was the
lick
hops?
of
Owen, what was the hops
roast.
that you used?
I think it was Columbus for bittering, Cascade through sort of mid to like late boil. Then it was Whirlpool was Cascade as well, and then dry hopped with Mosaic and Azaka.
I do like using Cascade for the kind of darker beers as well. It does definitely add something. I think the Amber Ale I've got on the pumps Cascade as well, and Bramblin. So no, it's quite a nice. It's almost a kind of gentle in a sense of the kind of new type hops. It is a lot more gentle, but yeah, it brings that kind of nice. It's made like grapefruit fruitiness thing, but it is quite subdued, I would say.
Yeah, it's not a super high alpha acid hop, is it? And
No,
I think,
it's
in the
not bad.
past we've talked a bit about, creating that structure, creating layers of flavor. And I think Cascade's a good one that just helps kind of support stuff.
That is
Columbus is another great example, just helping support some of the higher pitch notes of your higher alpha acid hops and whatever you add in the dry hop and things.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very pleasant. I think won't be around for long.
Awesome. I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I'm drinking beer. I have beer in my glass today. I have a Dusseldorf Alt beer which I brewed about 2 and a bit weeks ago, something like that. And I'll hold it up to the camera. I've already given everybody a sneak peek of this one.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of bringing my Stein in as well, and I went, "Oh, it's going to be, the Steins get too."
Come on,
I should have just.
We're doing German night. I've had Bockwurst and sauerkraut. I'm wearing my lederhosen, and I've got a Stein in my hand. All I need is a big-breasted woman to keep bringing me beers. You know what I mean? That's what I miss about.
Shall I go get
what? Your big-breasted woman?
No, my
Stein. Or your Stein. That's entirely up to you, mate. I'll tell you what. Why don't you do it at the commercial?
Yeah, well, I'll use it. I've got
one kicking around somewhere. God knows where it is. So
I have 4. Because you can't live without 4, can you? 4. I have I got 4. I got 2 Spartan ones. I've got a HB one, and I've got just a standard one that came with a glass and a beer set that I bought in Aldi or something.
That's probably the one I've got.
Well, it is what it is. It's a fantastic beer, and to be fair, this entire podcast is going to be literally top to bottom fantastic beers, if you ask me. Now, I know that on the post when I was pushing the episode earlier on today, I basically said you need to listen because you need to know which of these beers you need in your life. And I'm going to be honest, you need all of them in your life, regardless of whether or not you're a hophead, whether you like malty stuff, whatever. You cannot get away from the fact that Germany is the only country that I know of, and I may be wrong on this, but it's the only country that I know of that actually has laws concerning what you can put in beer. Okay? And I'll talk about alt beers a bit later on, which I'm not going to tell you what's in this. It's Pilsner, Munich, I can't even remember what else I put in it. And it's Hallertau Mittel through all the way through. It's a fantastic, beautiful beer. But Germany in 1516, in fact, I think it was before 1516, there was an older version, basically brought into law the Reinheitsgebot, which literally translated means purity law. and it's a series of regulations which limits the ingredients that you can put in beer in Germany. Now, if that is not an indication that this country takes its beer seriously, I don't know what is. I don't think there's any laws about what you can put in beer in the UK. And I'll be honest, I've tasted some of the stuff that comes out of the craft beer breweries in the UK, and it would appear that there is actually no limit to what they will shove in them. As such, these laws in Germany, they regulate beer and the states of the former Holy Roman Empire. The best-known version of the law was adopted in Bavaria in 1516. I am reading verbatim here.
Yeah.
But similar regulations predate the Bavarian order, and modern regulations also significantly differ from the 1516 version. So in Germany at the minute, you can put other stuff in beer, but you can't. I mean, there's still stuff that you can't put in beer in Germany, and that's why they produce some absolute bangers. But the Reinheitsgebot is something I wanted to get out there right at the beginning to let you know Germany ain't messing around, okay? They have laws that state what you can and cannot put in your beer, and it's called the Reinheitsgebot. So if you hear us talking about it, you've heard us talk about it on previous podcasts, that's what we're talking about, the Reinheitsgebot.
Chris, it has changed over the years, hasn't it? It originally didn't even include yeast because we didn't know yeast as an ingredient. I think one of the other ones was wheat. I'm sure it originally.
Yeah, you weren't allowed wheat. Wheat was used for bread.
For food, yeah.
That's strange.
Putting it in beer. So your Weisens.
And what was interesting, you mentioned
it's actually got a T in it.
Go for it, Chris.
Sorry, when you pronounce Hefeweizen, it's Hefeweizen. My old head teacher at a school where I used to work at in Leeds was a German teacher. And when I said to him, the Reinheitsgebot, the first thing that he said to me was, and how do you pronounce wheat beer? And I went, wheat beer. And he went, how do you pronounce it in German? And I went, Hefeweizen. And he went, no. It's Hefeweizen. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And every time I saw him when I was going for a vape after that, he just kept walking up to me and going, Hefeweizen, and then walked off. He was a bit strange, but he was a good lad. So, yeah, anyway, you were talking wheat.
Where's the second H? Hefe. Is it like...
Hefe?
It's how the letters are pronounced in the word in German.
Huh.
It's spelled Hefeweizen.
That's right.
But it's pronounced Hefeweizen. I don't know. Germans, what can you say? Yeah. I mean, Jesus, they walk around in lederhosen, for fuck's sake. Leather shorts are part of the national dress code at Oktoberfest, so you can't fault them. They're doing something right.
That must get sweaty.
It's October, though. It's not going to be mega warm, is it?
See how we've got the whole craft beer scene, obviously, that we've brought over from America. I wonder what kind of impact that's having over in Germany just now. If that's having an effect on any of the traditional brewing that they do, or if people in Germany are more interested. They've got excellent beers, so it's just like, do they need the whole craft
I don't think
scene?
they give a toss.
No. Well,
they probably
any of our listeners would be able to maybe put in a wee bit about that and see what the scene is over there. It'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, I bet you there still is a craft beer thing going on in Germany.
Yeah, but I just wonder if it can break through, because Germany's already got outstanding beer, it really does.
But then the argument could be said that the UK has outstanding beer if you look at ales. We might not think so, but
oh no, I love a good pint, mate. I'll drink most stuff when I'm in the pub.
Maybe England does. I'm not sure.
I don't think
Scotland. I think we just went to.
You've got tenants. You don't need out else.
Thing. Yeah. Yeah, Pilsner.
I mean, there's got to be something said for the. Well, I'm hoping this is going to become a bit of a series talking about the different beers of the different countries around the world, because America's going to be one hell of a train ride. Okay, but then we've got places like Mexico that I want to cover. I want to cover Belgium. I'd really, really like to cover Scandinavia. You know,
get this.
there's a lot of places around the world.
Chris, make sure this is in that notes.
It's already in the notes. It's already in the notes. But I mean, all I want is I want people to understand that. Yeah, fair enough. At the moment, the craft beer scene in the UK and the US tends to be pushing your massively hop forward mango milkshake, tropical, super hopped IPAs,
super soft
pale ales, things like that. The nipples are going to turn out big this year as well, not just because of the snow that we've had either, but I think there's a whole world, but there's a whole world of other beers as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to take into account. You've just brewed a Marzen. I've got my alt beer. Tomorrow, I'm planning on brewing another Marzen.
I'm going the German. I'm doing the German series right now. So Marzen, Helles,
exactly,
and then Bock. So little adventure here.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot to be said for German beers.
Oh,
I think that
Owen's looking confused.
That's clearly evidence for the fact that we're doing an entire podcast on it. But no, I was just interested to kind of almost raise the question about how closely does Germany continue to maintain the Reinheitsgebot rules? You know, is it almost
Reinheitsgebot,
however you want to pronounce it correctly?
Say that again, Owen.
You're gonna have to put up with it. I'm not saying it again. I'm just gonna call it purity law. Look at you guys.
German purity law.
Is it just something that they just go, oh, you know, we like to be all German about it, but do they actually like fine people if they, you know, do they police it?
It's a law. It's a literal law.
Yeah, but so is some of the you're not allowed to wear a suit of armor into the Houses of Parliament.
Hold on, does that mean then in Germany they can't brew a coconut milkshake IPA?
No, apparently not.
I would imagine that there are ways around it, but I would think that there would be. I mean, you've been to Germany, right?
Uh-huh.
Did you see any mango milkshake passion fruit sour IPAs?
That was a long time ago. I was 2013. I think New Year 2013 was the last time I was there.
You weren't 13.
That's 8 years ago, mate.
Christmas. It was Christmas 13 going into 14. Yeah.
I don't think things are going to have changed in 6 years. Well, I really don't think they are.
I don't know. I think the whole craft beer thing in the UK has changed in the last 6 years.
Yeah, but has it really changed that much? Because the big hops were already here.
No, but
there were already companies in 2013 doing. Yeah, but Brewdog's fucking shite.
No, but that was the one that changed the market for the masses.
Did it really?
Yeah, it did. Of course it did.
I think it brought a lot of people. It brought it brought a lot of people more close to craft beer. Yeah. A lot of people that perhaps weren't into craft beer that were probably lager drinkers. Yeah, me included.
I think
things like Brewdog and like Sierra Nevada was the thing that got me more interested in beer. And suddenly I was like, wow, there's something more than macro lager and, you know, that sort of thing. So
I'm not going to say that it hasn't
not sure where
changed,
we're going with that.
But from what I'm seeing, I don't think that there has been much of a change in the German beer market because I'm not entirely sure that the Germans want it.
No.
Let's start covering some of the styles, and then hopefully somebody from Germany will comment.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody's listening who's got a German mate, and seriously, drag them to this feed on YouTube, get them to put a comment in the comments below, send us a message on BrewTube, whatever. Grab somebody who's German and just ask them, do they have mango and passion fruit milkshake IPAs? And if so, are they actually allowed to brew them in Germany? Because that's the question that we're asking at the moment.
Yeah.
Is the Reinheitsgebot one of those laws you have to follow? Or is it like that law that says you can shoot somebody with a crossbow on the grounds of Hereford Cathedral? Okay? As long as they're Welsh, apparently. So you see what I'm saying? Let's work into the styles, okay? Owen, why don't you take it away with the styles?
All right, so there is a lot of styles across the German spectrum, and the first that we've got is the famous Helles, which is going to be our on the lighter end of the German styles. It's a classic lager, accentuated by its malt and noble hops, with some fairly restrained bitterness. So it's a really pleasant, clean, tends to be a lovely, bright, beautiful
that's
clarity.
the word. Owen, bright,
And
bright. Hellas translated.
very,
I think,
very pale.
is bright.
Yeah, very pale.
Yeah.
And it's a cracker. I love a Helles.
I love a Hellas.
I
Good
can't say-
example
Love a
for
Hellas
me.
too.
I can't say I've drunk that many actually. Different.
We've got the
breweries.
St Mungo. St Mungo's West beer is a Hellas. It's a slightly what's the word? Oh, it's went straight out of my head. It's malty. Sorry, I don't know why that went in my head. But it's a kind of malty lager.
It's gonna be a long night.
It's a kind of that
It's
Munich
going to be a
malt-
long night.
Yeah, the Munich malt thing. It's got a slight maltiness to it, and yeah, it's good. It's one of my favorites.
I think
I love
one
a good Helles.
of the more famous examples is Augustina Helles,
Yeah,
which quite a few people may have had that. And it's a good example.
It is a
in my
fantastic
opinion.
beer. It is. And to be fair, it's one of a long list of German beers that people will drink because it's smashable. When Germans go out, and I got a couple of friends who I went to university with who were German, and when they go out, they're not going out for a pint. They're going out for beers. Because they don't go out very often, and when they do, they're going out for beers, and they want a beer that they can smash. And Helles is one of those beers that you can just pick up and crush. Restrained bitterness, a little bit of sweetness, nice little floral note from some noble hops. Boom, you've instantly got yourself a smashable beer right there.
Yep.
You know, and then you move into the realms of like your fest beer. Now, I hate to be the one to have to say this one. I had to. Currently, in the 2015 BJCP style book, which Andy's now going to point out on his wall because he's that kind of twat, the Oktoberfest has been replaced by the fest beer category.
Yeah,
It's
go on,
normally
Chris.
lighter
Go on.
in colour and body. Normally lighter in colour and body, and represents the modern interpretation of beers served at Munich's original Oktoberfest celebration. Now, the original Marzen, which we'll come on to a bit later, was taken over by the Fest beer. Now, I'm going to be the first to put my hand up. I like both of those beers.
Yeah.
I will crush Marzens until they come literally out of my nose, and I will drink Fest beers until they too come out of mine. One of them could come out of each nostril. I'm not picky, all right? But that is an absolutely crushable beer as well, because it's got a decent amount of malt. It's got a decent amount of hops, and it is just another beer from the German stable, which you can crush. They're beautiful.
I'm seeing a theme here. I'm hearing a theme.
It's weird, that, isn't it? It's almost like they've made beers that you can drink.
Yeah.
So,
Clever bastards.
I'm gonna do the next one because I think I'm the only person who's actually had a proper alt beer, aren't I?
Probably.
Well, you're drinking
I don't think
one
either
right
of you
now,
two
aren't
have. Yeah, but I also spent a lot of time in Dusseldorf drinking them out there, mate. So trust me. Alt beer, literally translated from German, means old beer. It's a style of beer brewed in the historical region of Westphalia and around the city of Dusseldorf, which obviously is where I went and why I was drinking it. Its name comes from it being a top fermented ale, which is an older method than the bottom fermentation of other lagered beers. Now, alt beers, as you can see from the fact that we are 23 minutes into this podcast and I've already done half a stein, right? These are crushable beers again. Germany seems to produce beers that you can drink a fair amount of. It's almost like they realize that if you make a mango passion fruit triple IPA with added lactose and oats that you have to eat with a goddamn fork, you're not going to drink very many of them. you see what I'm saying? So yeah, the alt beer is one of my favorites. However, I happen to know that one of Andy's favorites is the Kolsch.
Kolsch is
I'm
good.
queuing you up. That was
Okay.
the ultimate fucking segue, Andy.
Kolsch. German pronunciation. Is it Kolsch?
Kolsch.
Kolsch.
Try that again, Andy.
Kolsch.
Near enough.
No.
Move on.
Smooth.
Okay, so it's a style of beer originating from Cologne in Germany. In appearance, it's bright and clear with a straw yellow hue. Since 97, the term Kolsch has had a protective geographical indication. PGI.
It has a PGI, people, like Cornish pasties.
Yep, within the EU, indicating a beer is made within 50 kilometres or 30 miles of the city of Cologne and brewed according to the Kolsch Convention, as defined by the members of the Cologne Brewery Association, which is Kölner, I don't know,
Kölner Brewery Verbrand.
the brand.
Go on, go on. I'll
Kolsch
do
is
the
one of
German
the most-
pronunciation for you. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, exactly. That's what I like to hear. Teamwork. Kolsch is one of the most strictly defined beer styles in Germany. According to the convention, it is a pale, highly attenuated, hoppy, bright, i.e. it's been filtered and not cloudy, and it's a top fermenting beer, and it must be brewed according to the Reinheitsgebot. There you go.
I teed you up for that one because I knew that one had the most words, and I knew that you'd trip over a few. I'm a bit of a bastard like that. Now,
That's fine.
one of the most important things to remember when you're doing a Kolsch, okay, is please use a proper Kolsch yeast. Because if you don't, you're not going to make a Kolsch. In fact, to be fair, if you're in Britain, you're not making a Kolsch anyway. All right? Because you're not within 50 kilometers of Cologne. So
You have to say, don't you have to say that you're making a Kolsch style beer, or a beer
Yes, you do.
styled
Yes, you do.
in line
Yes,
with Kolsch.
that's why
something like
Greg's.
that.
That's why Greg's can call them pasties, but they can't call them Cornish pasties because they're serving them in bloody Wakefield and they're made on site. So the point is, the Kolsch style of beer is a fantastic style. It's more attenuated than the other styles of lager beer within Germany. It's quite a dry beer, but it makes it smashable. We're coming back on the same theme. It's a smashable beer. But it's another top fermenter, okay? And the yeast that you use when you make a Kolsch is virtually the same yeast as what you use when you're making an alt beer. It's just a different malt load. And we'll talk about this later on because it's quite interesting when you look at the malts and the way that they're used. Some German beers, you can literally use the same malt in the same proportions, two different yeasts, make two different styles of beer. You could probably do that in the UK as well. I'm not saying it's indicative purely of Germany.
Yeah.
But these are beers that they've stood the test of time, for God's sake. There's a reason why they're still making them. It's because they're amazing. So I think Owen should do the next one because he's the one with the most experience of making
his
these.
favourite.
Groans.
He's made loads of these.
Yeah, I've made loads, and I don't know if you guys know, but I'm actually a pro at making these. So
Owen,
I've heard those rumors, mate.
you could probably
I was
learn
thinking
a thing
about
or
this.
two.
Do you think it's because you're trying to pressure ferment it? Is why you're losing the banana?
I'm not sure if I have.
You haven't pressure fermented it?
No, I don't think I have. No.
Okay,
No.
okay.
And
That's
if anyone's an avid listener to the podcast, I think you probably know what style we're talking about. But or I am about to talk about, and that is the Weiss beer, the Hefeweizen.
The banana beer.
That's good enough. We'll take that.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? So
It's all right.
So this is the classic German wheat beer, which is an ale. It's a top fermented beer, and it tends to be 50-50 between malted barley and wheat, or sometimes heavier on the wheat.
Yep.
And there tends to be kind of two main varieties, which is the classic German Weiss beer, which is the banana and clove type beer, which we're all very used to, and then the Belgian wit beer as well, which tends to be spiced with orange,
Oh,
coriander,
coriander, yeah.
this sort of thing. Which actually, if I recall back to my very first podcast with Chris on the subject of wheat beers, having done a little bit of research, is I think the Belgian wit beer was actually developed in response to the German Weissbier, and they were actually adding those spices at the back end because they didn't have the yeasts available to them to create the ester profile.
I've read that as well.
So a little bit of history for you, whether that's true or not.
That's cool.
According to the internet, which obviously it always tells the truth. That's what it said. We've got other types that include lambic. I'm not sure if lambic is classified as is that classified as a wheat beer?
According to the website I was reading, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lambic beers tend to contain a high proportion of wheat, apparently.
Wheat. Yeah, they do.
All right.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. And then the Berliner Weiss, which is the classic German sour, which tends to be a very low ABV beer that they tend to classically mix with a sort of sugary syrup, a flavored syrup, which isn't particularly popular. It fell out of popularity in Germany for a long time, and I think it's made a bit of a comeback.
Is it not in America? It's like a Florida Vice or something like that, where they put fruit and stuff.
I think through craft beer, it has definitely had a resurgence.
Yeah.
But and then the goes as well.
Salty Kiss.
Which I'm not sure if are we gonna talk about the goes later on? We are, aren't we? Do you want to talk about it now?
We're not.
No, we'll talk about it now.
No, just the one.
It's a shit
the one
beer,
that
and if you
sticks out.
drink it, you're a weirdo.
No, it was it
I
Magic
like
Rock.
a goes.
Has Magic Rock not got the Salty Kiss?
Don't know.
Which is I think that's a goes, and it's
I have had a few gozes, which is a sour salty beer. So it's brewed in a very specific part of Germany, which is a place called Goslar, and the actual natural water source is brackish. So that's where the actual salt content comes from. I'm not sure where the kind of sour thing comes from. I guess it's the same as the Berliner Weiss, but they use particular souring yeasts, presumably Lactobacillus. But yeah, it's quite an interesting style, which you tend to see in these days. You tend to see fruited versions quite a lot.
Yeah.
But the classic style,
there's a lot of them around at the minute.
Yeah. Is it the triple fruited? Triple fruited goes. You see a lot, and they are good. I enjoy them.
To be fair, you need something in it to take away from the saltiness, don't you? Really, they're a bit crap. In my opinion, obviously.
I quite enjoy it personally.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, mate, isn't it? That's the wonderful world of beer. Now, the next style that we're going to talk about. The next style that we're going to talk about is a Calabia. Now, the Calabia is a specific type of German beer. It's another lager, which is typically neither clarified nor pasteurized. So it's a live beer. It's another one of those wonderful live beers. It's not being cleared up. There's no liquid fining, no liquid lagering gone into it. And it literally translates from the German as cellar beer. And it refers to the fact that it's lagered at really cool temperatures. And it's a recipe which probably dates back to the Middle Ages, believe it or not. In comparison with most of today's filtered and pasteurized beers, the Calabia contains more of its original brewing yeast. If you've ever been for a night out on Calabias, you will know that the following day can be quite explosive. And it has a lot of vitamins because of that yeast. Vitamin B12 is something that you get from yeast, and they're all held in suspension. So as a result, it's distinctly cloudy, and it is described by German producers as Naturtrub, which means naturally cloudy. There's another form of the Calabia, which is called the Zwickelbier, and these are often served directly from the barrel. Like if you go to a beer garden in certain parts of Germany where they have Calabias, or you go to a beer keller, You will get these beers pretty much direct from the barrel. I suppose this is Germany's equivalent of the cask ale, maybe. But they can be bottled as well. And since these beers do not undergo pasteurization, they are rather perishable. So I'm pretty sure this is the German version of a cask beer. And it's best to drink these as fresh as possible. So once they've been cellared for a little while, get it drunk kind of thing, you know, get them to lager for a little bit and then get them smashed. Now, Andy is brewing one of these next styles of beer very, very soon. So I'm going to let Andy talk about this one because he's got obviously a little bit of experience of recipe design and stuff like that to go with these.
Yeah, next one's Bock.
That'll be a no.
So what? So yeah, the next one I'm brewing is a Bock.
It was the raised eyebrow, Andy. You just went,
it's like. But the Bock recipe I'm gonna start off with is out of the Bible. So I think it's the traditional Bock. But what I really liked about it that caught my eye was the special bee that's in it. So Raisin, exactly. So the amber ale that I did's got some special bee, and it was amazing. So this has got a nice, good dose of special bee. So I'm quite looking forward to this one. So
you have a bit of a love affair with special bee at the moment, do you?
Yeah, a wee bit. I see. The thing was, when I was down in London, I went to a few craft beer bars when I was down working at one point, and I found this pint, and it was like literally drinking liquid kind of raisin sort of thing. It was like this beautiful ale, but it had this crazy raisin thing. And since then, I've always kind of tried to find this, that kind of how you do that again. So I think the special bee is hopefully the answer. We'll go through that journey on the High Road Brewery YouTube channel.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
All right, you're saving that one for your own shit, are you? Is that what we're going with?
No, it's just
okay,
I've not done it yet. Obviously, I'll talk about it in the Hop edition when it comes, and I'll give it to you
after you've released your video content.
And I've pointed you all at the video. No, I wouldn't do that. Come on.
Nice. So a Bock is a strong lager, traditionally. And are you doing this bit, Andy?
On you go, mate. No, I'll do it.
Go on, you do this bit then.
Okay, so Bock is a strong lager, traditionally and sometimes still an ale, as in the case of at least some Weizenbocks. It's of German origin. Several substyles exist, including Maibock, Hellesbock, Hellerbock, a paler, more hopped version, generally made for consumption at spring festivals. Doppelbock is a stronger, maltier version. Weizenbock is a version using 40 to 60% wheat. Eisbock, a much stronger version made by partially freezing the beer and removing the ice that forms. Okay, so originally it's a dark beer. A modern bock can range from a light copper to brown in colour. The style is very popular with many examples brewed internationally. There you go.
It is a fantastic beer, especially if you get a decent Maibock. I mean, Jesus, don't get me wrong, it's falling down water. Okay, it's one of those beers that hides the alcohol incredibly well. But a decent Maibock will have you on your ass on under 5 pints. It's really, really nice. And we need to talk about the Eisenbach because Santi seems to make these a hell of a lot because Santi seems to really enjoy freezing his beers. Oh, yeah. Purely accidental.
Is this a wind-up?
Accidentally, of course.
Yeah. So he accidentally freezes his beers and then accidentally transfers them while part of the beer is still frozen. So all the alcohol goes across and very little of the water.
That's
so he's basically making Applejack for his kegs, and he wonders why he only gets 12 litres going in, you know.
Nice.
They're amazing beers, a box, and they are very strong. I mean, I think the strongest Eisbock I've ever seen was 16.5%. So, you know, we're talking serious falling down water here. You know, your triples, your quads, your triple IPAs, they're not even at the same. They're not playing the same game, you know.
Yeah.
but they are
This box,
incredibly tasty.
Chris,
They're
the box I'm
incredibly
gonna do
tasty.
6.5%.
What is it?
The traditional
Exactly.
bock. So
And that's just a normal bock.
this is just a normal bock, yeah. Yep.
But I think that's actually
Falling down water, mate.
I don't want to bring Brewdog back up, but they've done
yeah,
effectively like their strongest beer in the world thing that they've been going on. It's more or less been a
Eisbach.
Eisenbach, hasn't it? An Eisbach.
Yep, definitely.
Anyway,
They are difficult to make well.
Well,
They are difficult to make well.
Aye.
Freeze distilling is a bit of an art. You know, it's
right.
a difficult thing to get right. You don't want to take too much. I mean, you made one. You told us a story about taking it to your local homebrew club. It's difficult. It's difficult to make one well. But again, another fantastic beer. Not one that you can crush a huge amount of, but definitely flavor-wise, a very, very, very nice beer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I really like them as well.
I'm not sure the word "crush" you would associate with that beer, but I guess what we're talking about is like the German version of imperial stouts, or it's their sort of view of very alcoholic style of beer.
Yeah.
Christmas beers, isn't it?
Yeah,
Christmas
I guess
beers.
so.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Yeah. What does the BJCP brewing calendar say about Eisenbach? Does it say that we have to brew it in August? The one that you've got up on the wall at the side of you.
It just says don't bother.
January. And drink.
Brew in January, cellar them all the way through the summer, serve them in.
No. It says brew it in January and drink it by mid-April. Aye, brew
Sounds
January
about right.
and drink mid-April.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, when you've got the
March, April
true
drinking.
cold of summer. Yeah, really good. Fantastic. So, Owen, do you want to take us through Dunkles?
Dunkles. So it's Dunkles are effectively just a kind of terminology in Germany for sort of any dark beer, really. So it's very characterized by the region that you're going to be in. But typically kind of the color range is amber to a dark brown. And they're going to be a very smooth, malty type beer. So if you go into a bar in Germany and order a Dunkel, depending on where you are, you may get an ever so slightly different style of beer. Traditionally, the Dunkel is brewed in Munich, in Bavaria, in the Bavarian region. Typically, ABV is somewhere between 4.5% and 6%. And I think, most Munich bars will do a Dunkel. It'll just be their dark beer. But they tend not to be, they're not sort of stout level dark beers. You know, when I say dark beer, often I think of something quite roasty, but I don't think a Dunkel is necessarily a particularly roasty beer. It tends to be just quite a lot more malt present, probably tending to use more of the kind of Cara Munich malts and stuff like that. So they're probably getting heavier toffee notes. Do you agree with that, guys? That they're not really using necessarily heavily roasted malts in these types of beer. A classic style that is within the sort of Dunkel family is the Dunkel Weissen, which is the dark wheat beer. So you're going to be getting both the kind of dark roasted malt thing going on with the ester profile, possibly of the ale yeast being used, and giving you more of that sort of banana type thing. In fact, I go as far as say I drank Tricky's Dunkel Festa the other day, and I even recorded a beer review for him, which was an absolutely cracking beer review, except my audio fucked up and it was static all the way through.
Did you forget to turn the mic on?
I don't know what I did, but I had 25 minutes of me talking about Tricky's beers with static, and sadly I just sort of went inside and cried.
Yeah.
a little bit.
Slightly died. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll just round it off with a little
Tricky's
story.
one was I think we talked about it before. It was like
Good.
he says it was like a banoffee pie sort of.
It was. I
Oh,
can verify this
caramel.
fact.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Banoffee pie
Should
is
I
a
drink it
beautiful
live
thing,
on?
especially if
We
it's
should have
made
drank it
right.
live on Pod. Yeah.
I would agree. I'm pretty tempted to brew a Munich Dunkel, if not a Dunkelweizen. So
I'm very tempted to brew a Munich Dunkel as well. We just had a comment on YouTube from Jay Fork, who says, you can tell by the look of Andy and tell this episode isn't about Neepers. In other words, I think Andy's looking bored shitless, guys. So I'm going to let Andy talk about Schwarzbiers because he seems to perk up a little bit and get a semi on whenever he talks about his Schwarzbier.
Wait for the German
Incidentally, can I just
pronunciation.
can I just point out right now that has anybody seen Spaceballs the movie?
Yeah.
Spaceballs.
The classic quote, I see your Schwarz is as big as mine. Dark helmet, ludicrous speed. That's where he comes from, the movie Spaceballs. Where they go into the video room and they're watching Spaceballs 3, the search for Spaceballs 2. Nah, man, seriously, you're telling me you've never seen Spaceballs?
No.
You need to wake up, son. You need to watch it. It's a requirement.
I'm just
Spaceball.
I'm just googling it.
It's a kind of comedy piss take of Star Wars. And
yeah, well, it
Star
was made
Wars.
3 years after I was born. I was only 3 when it was made.
Oh, come on.
How old are you, man?
Are you 12?
I'm 36.
So
it was made in 1987.
Yeah, perfect. I've seen it.
87 was a good year.
Yeah. Anyway.
Nah, right. Anyway, move on. We've lost Owen. Move on.
Yep.
Let's go for the
Swatch beer. So, Swatch beer, or black beer, is a dark lager originated in Germany. Tends to have an opaque black colour with hints of chocolate and coffee flavours. Yes, it does. And are generally around 5% ABV. I think mine's is 5.9. They are similar to a stout in that they're made from roasted malt, which gives them the dark colour. Yeah. Chocolate. Mine's is it started off with a coffee flavour, but then as it's mellowed out, it's definitely went to more like chocolate. So yeah, Schwarzbier, excellent. Brew it.
We're done. Goes beers, we're not even going to talk about. Owen's already done them. Salty, sour beers, really not my cup of tea ever. Berliner Weiss.
I'm going to make one. I'm going to make one, Chris, and I'm going to.
Yeah, I won't be drinking that.
Yeah.
I'm going to convert you.
No, you won't.
Yeah, well,
you won't, and I'll tell you why. Because I really don't like salty drinks.
I
really don't.
Look it up. But
I used to have to drink.
Salty kiss.
When I used to race motocross, I used to have a isotonic drink that I used to drink because you sweat a lot when you're racing bikes, especially in the middle of summer. And I used to have an isotonic drink that I used to drink between races to basically rehydrate myself. And it was ever so slightly salty. And I used to have to force that shit down. It was horrific. So you're not going to convert me to salty beer, mate. That's never going to happen.
The best one to try is
Berliner Weiss, we've already talked about.
Chris, the Salty Kiss by Magic Rock is that's a goes. And it is brilliant. I really, really like that.
Yeah, I won't be trying that.
Tart, light, sour, fruity.
I won't be trying that.
There you go. Anyone else wants to try a goes?
No, I'm not.
Hit up the Salty Kiss. That's good.
Yeah, rock on, guys. So, the Berliner Weiss is basically just a fruited Weiss beer, from what I can tell. Ever so slightly sour. Again, they're really not too bad. The Berliner Weisses aren't. I can't do more than sort of half a pint, but I think the reality is that they are aimed at a very specific part of the market. So, yeah.
Well, my the sour I sent you, Chris, was intended to be a Berliner Weiss. That was a passion fruit Berliner Weiss. Although I will add, it did come out a lot stronger than it should have.
It was a fantastic beer, mate.
So there you go.
It was a fantastic beer. Really, really nice. I think Owen's going to fill up his glass.
Andy,
now,
you mean?
The bit that I really want to talk about, and I've kind of already touched on this one as far as the German beers goes, is the commonality along, but commonality amongst the styles that we've just listed for brewing. Now, here's the thing. Germans ain't stupid, all right? And they can squeeze the life out of a franc or a euro better than most people. Many of the yeasts are interchangeable. The base malts are interchangeable. They're either the same or they're very similar. Slightly different proportions gives you a different beer. Very much the same as the UK. Now, a lot of them traditionally are decoction mashed, which is why the versions that you make at home, unless you're willing to do a decoction mash, which I don't think you really need for most styles, but for a lot of German styles, you really, really do. Most are lagered to allow them to clear. Obviously, Calabias and stuff, you don't really do that. But the wonderful thing about German beers, and I'm sure that Andy's going to, when he brews his Bock, his grain bill is going to be very, very similar to his Marzen that he's already produced. You can produce a Weissenbock with pretty much the same grain bill that you would produce a Hefeweizen with. All of these things, and when you look through it and you look at the grain bills and you look at the interchangeability and the hopping and all the other stuff, it's very, very similar across the board. It's almost like they found a recipe that works and just went, well, if we tweak this, we can call it something different. Just like every craft brewery in the UK when they're making a NEPA. Let's change it for the hops that we've got in bulk this week. But in Germany, because it's been done for hundreds of years, it's kind of become the norm. And I know that I've spent a lot of time bagging on NEPA breweries, but at the same time, they sell. Just like German beers, they sell. And when you make a good beer, you tend to keep that recipe around. How many, just completely ignoring German beers at the moment, how many recipes do you guys have in your brewing arsenal that you have brewed more than once? And I'm going to come to Owen first because I can see him thinking this one over. He's deep in thought.
Probably about 5 or 6. Probably 5 or 6, and I could certainly list them. I think there's a pretty classic NEPA recipe. Dead Pony Club I've done a couple of times. The black IPA I'm drinking or was drinking. What else? The Coconut Shy IPA I've made a few times. That's a banger. Oh, the Bell's Two Hearted Session Ale that I've made, which I've just changed the hops on. Yeah, there's a few.
Andy?
Yeah, so Vacant's probably the one that's been brewed the most, and then iterations of the Vacant. So the whole thing I went through with different hopping on the back of it. Yeah, and then I've done Elvis now a couple of times, or 3 times, I think. And what else? Oh, the brown porter. I've done variations on that, which is a really, really good porter recipe. But yeah,
the reason why I say this,
it's not much.
The reason why I say this,
yeah, we haven't nailed
is
it.
because the most brewed recipe that I have in my list of brews that I've made is the Marzen and the Alt beer. Because pretty much the first time I made it, I was incredibly happy with it. And I stuck with it. Now, I know for a fact that Owen, he's talked about a NEPA that he's brewed a few times. That's his style. That's what he likes. The boy's all about the triple dry hop, double IPAs. And that's cool.
Deepers.
All right. You brew what you like, don't you? That's the thing. You brew what you like. In Germany, people tend to drink lager beers or lagered beers. As such, you've got to have your recipe pretty much nailed. I imagine that breweries in Germany are very much like barbecue restaurants in Texas. If you produce shit beer, you ain't staying around very long.
There's nowhere to hide. You can't just
And
throw
we
a shit
talked about
ton
this
of
when we did the
hops at
lagers,
it.
didn't we?
You can't throw a shit ton of
Exactly.
hops at it. Yeah, and that's why
Nope.
people find brewing lagers so tricky in the home brewing sense as well. That's maybe why we do less of it.
I think the learning cycle
exactly.
is much slower as well because of the length of time that it takes to brew one. I think that's also
Yeah,
what tends to put
ferment,
people
all
off
that, yeah.
brewing lagers all that often. If you're particularly, the fermentation takes so much longer.
2 weeks.
If you're doing it traditionally, it's at least 2 weeks, and then
Yeah,
you're
and then you're
lagering
cellaring.
it for at least another 4. So you're talking about 6 weeks
Before you're drinking it.
before you're drinking it, and it's 6
The
weeks. It's a long time to wait. It's a
the
long
Quebec
time to
boys
wait
want
to work
yeah.
out that you've
Yep.
fucked it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. And then if you
Yes.
do get a disappointment, how much does that put you off ever doing it again?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true. It depends
For
how
me,
much
it
of a
wouldn't.
persistent person you are in terms of like how much you want to nail a particular recipe or a particular style of beer.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I'm gonna drag back a story which I think I may probably not have mentioned on this podcast before. When I used to be playing a lot of video games before I got married and had kids, obviously. In fact, before I even moved back up to Yorkshire, when I was still down in London, I used to play a video game called Motocross Madness 2. Okay. And it was one of those games where there was an online system, and it was obviously a motocross game. So it was lap times and total race time. And basically, I would spend anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day on a weekend racing certain tracks to try and get the best time. And because of that, I was given the nickname by the lads I raced with at the time of the Wolverine. Now, it took me a bit of research to work out what the hell they were talking about. And it's not the dude with adamantium hands. It was the animal, the Wolverine. And he was a New Zealand guy who actually gave me the nickname. And it's because a Wolverine will never, ever, ever quit. And I'm like that with my brewing. If I fuck a recipe up the first time, you better believe I'm brewing it again to work out where I fucked up and how I can not fuck it up the second time. And if I fuck it up the second time or it's not quite right, you better believe I'm brewing it a third time.
Yeah.
Because that's just me. That's the kind of obsessive personality that I have. If I don't do something right, I want to know why. And a lot of brewers tend to brew something once and go, oh, that was shit, and never brew it again, without realizing that it might be something that they've done. The water profile might have been wrong. Mash temp might have been wrong. All right? I must have brewed my clone of Boondoggle by Ringwood, or my tribute, let's say. I must have brewed that 8 or 9 times to finally get to a version that I was very, very happy with.
Chris, how long have you been brewing?
Oh man, 4.5 years, 5 years nearly.
Okay.
But I was only doing 10-litre batches back at the start.
Was that Boondoggle? Was that is that a Ringwood beer? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been to the brewery actually. Ringwood, not too far down the road.
Yeah, I went with my mate Biggie and Troll, 2 guys I used to play World of Warcraft with.
Amazing. Biggie and Troll. Great names.
Big Old Freak and Troll Slayer. Shout out to Biggie if he ever listens to this. Love you, man. He was a gym rat when we first met him. Now he's a bit old. But yeah, he's wonderful. He's wonderful. He's a great guy. And we went down there to I want to say the Black Forest, but that's in Germany, isn't it? New Forest. Down your way. Yeah. And we took Oscar and we went out and we did some walking and, enjoyed the fact that there's fucking horses and donkeys everywhere and they don't move when you drive at them. But we went down there. We met up with him. We went down to the Ringwood Brewery. It was fantastic. It was a wonderful day out. And the guy lied to us straight up. The bloke who was doing the tour was a liar. And I called him out on it. And I don't think he liked it. And yeah. But you did get that time in the little tap room afterwards with your little half-pint glass, and it's like you've got 30 minutes, drink as much as you can. Yeah, I made 8 pints in that time. So yeah, it was. Never met a rugby player before, let me tell you. But yeah, that was a good day out. That I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I walked out.
You do leave some.
I walked out very, very, very close to vomiting. I think. It was like, just cramming it down.
Yeah, Biggie's missus gave us a lift back. I've never been as pissed off about the fact that all those roads are twisty and windy back to the campsite where we were staying. Yeah, I nearly puked in his car. But it was good. It was good. It was a great evening out. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And Boondoggle is one of my favorite beers. I do commercial beers anyway. It's a beer that I find that you can drink quite a lot of. You know, it's
I
a
quite
fantastic
enjoy
beer.
49er. That's a good Ringwood beer.
I've got a recipe for 49er if you want it.
Yeah, ping it over, mate. I'd
And
like
it's
to make
supposed to be incredibly close.
Is it?
I've not had a chance to make it yet, but apparently it's very close.
Yeah,
very
send
close.
it over. Send it over.
I've sent
But
you
where
a
you
video.
are, this is one of the wonderful things about the Ringwood Brewery as well. If you take a sanitized bucket and go up to the door of the actual brewery when they're open and say to them, can I have some of your yeast? They will actually fill the they will fill the bucket with their yeast. Yes. They're very good about that.
No, they're just like, it's just
so yeah,
SO4, mate.
you can. No, it's the
it's
Sussex
Ringwood,
strain.
Yeah.
It's a Ringwood strain, but
Yeah.
they have a bacteria that lives in the eaves in their actual brew house, and some of that gets into the beer, which gives it its very distinct flavor, apparently. So there is a slight bacterial thing in there. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's
really
a
good.
super old school brewery. You know, they use it's all a gravity fed system. Very, very traditional way of brewing. Anyways,
but it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, Chris,
it's a good way of doing it because
you're talking about those 8 pints that you were chugging. I've sent a video in the group chat thing.
Yeah.
And it's a guy.
Yeah, I did see there was a video that had come through.
And I was just thinking,
let's have a look, see what Andy's taking.
That would so be you with the 8 pints.
No, I've seen that video before. Yeah. That's quite hilarious. Redecorates his entire table.
Equalizes and just goes off. It's like,
yeah, it's good. It's good. No, the wonderful thing about German beers, to drag this back to the topic that we're at, is, you know, they are fantastic beers, and there's a lot of them. And to be fair, you don't need much in the way of base malts. I mean, I tried to put together a list of typical ingredients that you need to brew German styles, and I could only come up with 6.
So,
I mean, obviously there's variations on a couple of them, but I can only come up with 6.
Pilsner,
Lager malt,
yep.
Pilsner malt,
Pilsner, yep.
Munich malt,
Munich,
Cara Munich, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep. Vienna's, we talked about this before.
Yes,
Vienna,
obviously.
Would you use Vienna?
It's Viennese, so it's Austrian.
It's Austrian. Exactly. So that takes that one out, and then
and then you've got the carafas 1, 2, and 3, and then you've got Special B.
Carahel, no.
Is that really German?
Yeah.
Is it?
I could find no reference to
Melanoiden. Is Melanoiden malt German?
Is Carahel not an American invention?
Is it?
And I'm pretty sure Melanoiden is Belgian.
Is it?
Pretty sure. Probably wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And then you've got wheat. And after that, I couldn't really think of anything.
Chocolate wheat?
Really? Are they going to use chocolate malt in German beers?
There's that Dunkles recipe.
Well, the Schwarz beer, maybe. I think that might have used some chocolate wheat, but...
Is that a legit German recipe?
No, it's not.
Probably not.
Deck's giving you some grief in the YouTube chat, Andy.
Oh, no way.
So you're not wearing your trademark top, apparently. So Christmas must have meant new socks and a new hoodie. Oh, dear God.
I've got the high road. Got the clobber on.
Yeah, he's taking the high road again, isn't he? Look, as much as I would love to sit here and talk about German ingredients, I can tell that you guys are itching for your commercials. So
I've already wired in.
Let's take it to the commercial break. It's time for a commercial break. It's time for us, all three of us, hopefully, to have something German to drink.
Yeah, well, I was already drinking something German, but It was homebrewed
It's all
German.
my
This
luck.
is
It's right
this
here.
is
It's
real-
it's not a
this is real
competition,
German.
Andy. It's not a competition.
Can I go first since I've already been wiling into mine for a
No.
while? Oh, and you always like a bit of time to digest yours.
You're right, I do. Save me 25 seconds of silence.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Does that mean
I'll-
I'm going first then?
No, I'll go first because this one. I've got a bit of history with this, and I always remember the first time I ever had it was in the West End of Glasgow. There was a pub that we found, and it was this really awesome lager, and it turned out it was a German lager that had this, like the yeast thing that came through the profile. Like sometimes it had a slight banana, or it was it was really interesting in its flavour, and it just a lot more malty than anything that we were usually drinking. So we actually paid over the odds, £1 extra or £2 at the time for a pint of this stuff, and it is Fürstenberg.
Fürstenberg.
Yeah, which
Just 1 second. Just 1 second.
rude.
I realise you're mid-flow, Andy. I realise you're mid-flow.
Come on.
We've just been called out by Harry. Smoked malt.
Oh,
Smoked malt.
yeah.
Rausch beer.
We actually we consciously left the Rausch beer off the style list, didn't we? We did discuss it. We just decided, you know what?
Let's just pretend that doesn't
We're
exist.
just gonna leave it off the list.
Yeah, that's what we did, honest.
But Harry, you called us out on it, bruv.
That's a good one. So yeah,
I tell you, you
Fürstenberg.
just can't trust these pro brewers, can you? They're giving a shit, even on our own podcast.
So Black Forest.
We deserve it.
Many years later, I was talking about I'd went to Germany, and it was the Black Forest I went to Freiberg, and this is Fürstenberg is in the Black Forest down that area, the kind of South Germany sort of area. But it's just an awesome malty type. It's almost like you can get that slight Munich malt taste on it, that kind of slight bready, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's probably got Pilsen and a bit of Munich in it and stuff, but it's super bright, very crushable.
It is
But yeah.
bright, that.
Oh, that's my cum face. So no, it's excellent.
I don't want to see your cum face, Andy. Keep that one to yourself, son. I don't want to see it.
Where's
There
the
you
wank
go.
sock? Get the wank sock out.
Yeah, the royal wank sock. Yeah, it's there. He's not got it on today. He's not got it on. Must
The
be wearing
French
condom.
Duke is going at it.
I'm going bareback tonight.
Bareback, no lube. Right. Would you like me to go first, Mr. Solo?
It's up to you, mate. I'm happy to go if you like.
Go on then, because I want to save mine, because I really want to rub this in Andy's face.
Let's do the shit sandwich, because you know me, I don't have cans upon German beer. But I did find a Marzen in my fridge.
Oh wow!
An October beer, an Oktoberfest.
Nice.
Hell yeah!
So it's
That's
a
not
German.
shit.
It's a German style of beer, except it is made by Galway Bay. So it's actually an Irish German beer.
So it's an Irish German beer.
Yeah, but by the description, which I will read for the benefit of my co-host and listeners, it's amber-coloured lager, which they've decoction mashed it, which I was quite impressed with. It's got
hell yeah.
German Munich malt, Pilsner malt, Vienna, and Hallertau Mittelfrüh, and they lagered it for 2 months. And honestly speaking, it does smell like very on point. What I do love about a good not just German lagers or German beers, but lagers as a whole, is the way that the hops and the malt and the yeast just come together. When you smell a lager, it just smells like lager, doesn't it? You know, that's what makes the smell of a lager, is the combination of those three things. So it becomes quite difficult, I think, actually, to pick out any really sort of key dominant flavors. But you're getting a lovely sweet malt aroma. You're getting a strong noble hop character. It certainly is very clear. I think you guys can see that. Clarity's
nice.
excellent. Head, excellent. I'll give it a taste.
I think that's more along the Fest beer style than the Marzen style.
It's a bit too light for a Malzen, isn't it?
It's a bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, on the taste, I'm getting a little bit of twang on the back, but that said, I've just drunk a porter. And that's the first taste. So maybe just getting a little bit of a fruity ester in the background.
Maybe not.
It's not bad. It is not bad, but not brilliant.
Is it quite bready? Has it got that kind of bready thing going? Because that's what I find.
It's more biscuity than bready.
Okay.
Yeah, more biscuity than bready, and probably a little more fruity than it probably should be.
It's not crisp enough.
It's not crisp enough. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Go away, you could do better. Is what I'll say on that. Over to you, Chris.
Wow. My God, that's all we're getting. Right. Now,
yeah,
I think I must have a beer from the oldest brewery that we've ever had on the Hop Edition. Okay. I went on to Beerhawk and just a sec. So I'm having a bit of a conversation with Harry at the minute. I've told him to brew a Munich Dunkel, and I've told him I'll pre-order 24 cans. Right. For those of you who are on the chat at the moment on YouTube, right, this is how committed I am, right, to brewers trying something new. I've told him to brew a Munich Dunkel. I said I'll pre-order 24 cans. He said cash up front, and I've just said to him, and I mean this, send me a PayPal. I'll make it happen. Send me a PayPal, Harry. Right? I'm telling you right now, you send me your PayPal, I'll sort it out.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how you mention the Dunkel, because that's the Air Brewingco's just put out the Dunkel as well, which they're kind of like a similar type brewery to Harry's got, and they called it the Man from Dunkel.
I'm really hoping.
Nice.
The Man from Dunkel. I'm really hoping that a lot more breweries in this country are going to pick up on some of the German styles, some of the less well-known German styles, and actually start pumping them out, because I do think there's a massive market for it in this country. I think people are starting to get a little bit annoyed and a little bit bored, more than anything else, of the Ipas and stuff like that. There's always going to be a place for beers like Vacant Gesture, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that because Harry's in the chat. What I'm saying is there's a lot of people who are getting bored of Nipas and stuff like that. Vacant Gesture will never go out of style, because, you know, I've not actually had anything more than one can of it, but it is a beer that is crushable. It is a beer that is, I mean, to be fair, very much like one of Tricky's beers, the Pilsner that he sent me, did not touch the sides, right? It disappeared, and I'm pissed off I didn't have more than one can. But the oldest brewery that we have had on the Hop Edition, ABK, 700 years of brewing experience, people. 700 years, right? You tell me another brewery that you've had or that you've seen on this podcast which is older than 700 years. I believe we've had more beers from breweries which are less than 7 years old. Never mind 700, you know? So, the lid's come off. I'm going straight in before I even... Malt, just malt,
Good.
just malt.
Where's the baby
Hell
wipes,
yeah.
Chris?
Right, they're just at the side of me, mate. Trust me.
I can see them.
Here we go. Look at that.
This is intense.
Oh, let's get clarity.
Clarity.
There is clarity on that still, even though it's quite dark.
Mate.
Right, what's the smell? Come on.
I'm getting a lot of Munich. Obviously, it's a Munich beer.
Uh-huh.
I'm getting that kind of almost borderline licorice smell. I'm getting a lot of malt. I'm just getting a hell of a lot of malt. I miss this beer. Oh man, I have missed this beer. Right, what I get off of this beer is it's quite highly carbonated. It's rather fizzy. All I get is Munich malt. You know, right? For those of you who've brewed quite a lot with Munich 10, you get that. It can only be described as the Munich flavor and the Munich smell. It's it's like almost burnt toast. It's kind of borderline licorice. Very much bready. Very much bready.
Super bready.
Yeah. But Jesus, oh man, I could do damage to a 24 pack of this right now, and I've only got 4 bottles.
Oh, that's all right. It's not too bad.
Crush it, Chris.
On the second mouthful, on the exhale, I get not the sour taste. No, sorry, not the sourness, but the smell and the borderline flavor of a good sourdough bread. You know, when you have, everybody knows when you've had a good sourdough bread, okay? You get those things that are called sourdough bread, and like somebody's added 2 drops of vinegar. Get to fuck. This is kind of one of those, that complex, deep, bready flavor, crackers, toasted. Oh man, I would. Dude,
it's good.
I'm just gonna top my glass up.
It's almost like
it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
it's weird that they've been doing it 700 years. Harry's telling me that they're an investment company and they got bought out in 2013, but I don't give a shit as long as they kept the same head brewer. I don't care. The clarity on this beer, considering it is a Munich. Right, let's get it in. Look at that. You can see my head through this dark beer.
Yeah, I can see you through it.
It is beautiful. It is a stunning, stunning beer.
It's like the clarity in this thing's just...
There's a lot to be said for this. The hop is quite obviously Tettnang and Hallertauer Mittelfrüh. You can taste that spicy note from the Tettnang. And you're getting that floral nature right at the end from Mittelfrüh. Oh my good Lord. That is fantastic. Marks out of 10, I'm going to give this one a 17. That is amazing. That is a truly, truly... Yeah, Martin, we want a 700-year-old head brewer. That's what we want. This is a fantastic, fantastic beer. My God, seriously, if you've never drunk this beer, yeah, literally father to son. Didn't bother going to school, just went to the brewery.
The Munich Dunkles going on the 2021 brew list.
Fucking hell, I could do some serious damage. I am doing some serious damage to this beer.
Yeah, they can brew good beers. I had their fest beer at Christmas. Was incredible. The ABK one.
The ABK one.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, got it. You've got it in your pack, Chris.
It's in there.
That. Yeah, it's in there.
It's in the fridge.
That was one of the best. It was one of the best commercials I had last year, where I was just like, oh, top.
Do you know something?
Anyway.
I actually feel really, really, really bad for Owen now.
Because
he gave his beer a 6 out of 10.
I know, but it's because he didn't buy it from Germany. It's not an actual German brewery.
Don't
That
feel
was
too
the
bad for me.
mistake.
I do have a Admundsen and Lervig Imperial Stout, so I'll probably be cracking into that in a minute.
Aye.
Well, you know what I'm going to do now, Owen, don't you? As soon as the ice is gone and I can actually get to the post office, mate, I'm going to send you a care package. I'm going to make you a care package, mate. I'm going to send you some alt beer. I'm going to send you some of my brown ale. I'm going to send you some of my mango Hefeweizen. And I'm going to make sure that you really, truly appreciate it. Because as soon as I get my Marzen done, you're getting some of that as well. I know you love me, man. I know you do. I know. But
cheers, bro.
This mate, this is just fantastic. What a beer. What a beer. Oh, mate, where's my baby wipes? There we go. Baby wipes. Dude. Yeah, that is a banger. That is an absolute banger. Now, we've covered the styles and we've covered them fairly well. Well, I think we have anyway. Obviously, we left the smoked beers out because nobody wants that shit. We've done the commercial break. Owen's feeling quite. It looks like he's the same as when I had that beer from. Oh God, what was it? Was it Brew York? No, it wasn't Brew York. I can't remember. One that I had on an episode, just me and Tricky, where he had an absolute banger and I had a bag of shit and I wasn't impressed with it and didn't finish the can. So what I want to go into now, I want Owen to get G'd up. We need the Owen of old. What's this? Are you still drinking the Marzen?
Yeah.
Life's too short to drink shit beer, mate. Push it to one side and move on.
I will.
You know what I'm saying?
I will.
Drain it. What I'd like to do is I would like to talk about great maltsters and great malts that make German beers special and unique. And I've got a feeling, even though there's only 3 words written down on the notes, I've got a feeling that this one is going to... Sorry, that's my keys. I've got a feeling this one is going to provoke some discussion. A discussion that we've probably gone over once or twice before, but it's such an important discussion. I think we're going to cover it twice.
I think
great malts, great maltsters.
Are we going to talk about Bohemian? Is that going to be a keyword?
We may well, because I've got 2 sacks of that stuff sitting behind me in little blue tubs. Well, they're not so little. Yeah. Right. Great malts to make German beer special or unique. Honestly, I think Weyermann's floor malted Bohemian Pilsner is quite literally the best thing since sliced bread. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I think that malt makes German beers what they are.
Yeah.
Discuss.
Cracker bread.
While I drink some more of this.
Yeah, the Wehrmann's floor malted or the Bohemian Pilsner is just, if you've not tried it yet, try it, because I think as homebrewers, I think we don't brew that much, and that it's a lot more expensive for a sack of that malt. You could go and get your
55 quid.
Malt. Oh, did you pay? Bloody hell! I think I was about 40.
It's 55 quid a sack now.
Is that because of Brexit?
The last time I bought it was 38. Yeah, man. Because of all those gammon-faced fuckers who voted for Brexit.
Oh.
Sorry, I had to get that one out.
Anyway, so yeah, maybe just get 5 kilos of it or something then. Just to
hell no, I bought 25.
But see, to be fair, like, I always want to go for my stuff, I always go for the best. So I have a sack of Golden Promise and I'll have a sack of that Bohemian Pilsner, the Wehrmann's, because those 2 are just amazing to make great beers. And that's what I want to be drinking in the house, So that's why I choose that. There you go.
I love it. Have you used floor malted Bohemian Pilsner yet, Mr. Han Solo?
No, I haven't. I haven't got around to ordering that. I do have some Dingman's Pilsner malt. I've got a whole bag of that. I tend to always run
Shit.
one bag of Pilsner, one bag of ale malt, which I'll vary. Sometimes at the moment I've got Golden Promise and some Marisota left over from the last bag. I've done Clear Choice. Sometimes I do Irish Minch malt. So I just change it up. And sometimes,
have you noticed any difference, Owen, or is it a case that you haven't done a side by side?
no, I think in the main, I don't do side by sides, but as you go through the iterations of beer with different bags of base malt, you do pick up nuances. Pilsner malt. Yeah, I think you personally, I think you probably have to go side by side, wouldn't you, to really get the difference. And I think it's one of those things where you're like, if you're on the journey to make the very best beer you can make, then absolutely your base malt's got to be on point. But I think what percentage gain are you getting in terms of making better beer by having Bohemian floor malted Pilsner malt? Is it though?
About 50%.
Is it?
But as homebrewers, I'm saying it's an extra £5 or £8 or something like that, and the difference between another Pilsner malt. It's not. You're not running a brewery here where you're trying to make profit.
No, that's true.
We're doing it for to be drinking great beer at home. And anything like that can give you a one-up, then why not?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not one to penny pinch and, cut corners when it comes to making my beer. I'm a man that brews on a brutal system, that. So I think, definitely I'll look into, getting that floor malt with Bohemian Pilsner malt, because I'd be dead keen before I get onto my German beers brewing this year. I'll probably invest in some, but from what I understand, Dingman's Pilsner malt's pretty good too.
Can I just say, Owen, do you have a grain mill?
I do, yes. Yeah, I mill my own grains.
So you would be buying the uncrushed version?
I would be, yeah.
Oh my God. What you're going to end up with at the side of your PC brewing space or something like that is you're going to end up with one of them. All right, which is snacks and nibbles.
Is that not your Vienna?
It's 50-50 mix Vienna and floor malted Bohemian Pilsner. The floor malted Bohemian Pilsner has an almost, for want of a better term, Harry can get floor malted Bohemian Pilsner for 29 quid a sack, crushed plus shipping. That is expensive, because what's shipping? Probably about £1 a sack. If you're buying a ton of it, it's probably about £1 a sack. That's expensive. That's twice as expensive as you can get. Yeah, because when you're a brewery, when you buy in bulk and you buy it a pallet at a time, you get it for about 16 quid a sack.
Yeah,
sometimes even less than that,
right,
depending on who you get it from.
But I mean, if we were to get it for Harry, that price, that's cheaper than what we can get it.
That's half the price of what I paid, basically.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
Yeah, but it's you'll end up with a bowl at the side of wherever you sit mostly, and you'll just end up chomping your way through it. It's a lovely, lovely malt, and I do believe that everybody should give it a try. So, I really do. It is one.
So Dingman's is actually a Belgian maltster.
It is, yes, but they do ship a lot of malts into Germany because obviously they're right next door. Assuming my geography isn't utterly terrible, I'm pretty sure it's right next door. Best Malts, I do believe they're German as well. And based on a rudimentary bit of research that I did as to the malts that are actually used by certain German breweries, specifically I looked up ABK. the word on the grapevine, which you never know if it's true or not, is that Weyermann's, Dingermann's, and Best Malts are the three that are used the most. I'm pretty sure that they're not buying 8 tons from Fawcett's and having it shipped over to Germany when they've got such fantastic specialist maltsters over there in Germany. So yeah, it is one of those situations whereby if you want to make a truly great German beer, it is advisable. It is not necessary, but it is advisable to get as authentic a flavor as you can to use a German maltster for the malts.
Yeah.
Because believe me, having used Crisp's Pilsner malt, there is literally no comparison between the Crisp Pilsner and the Weyermann's floor malted Bohemian Pilsner. It is a massive, massive, massive difference. Definitely something that a lot of people should take into account when they're brewing German styles specifically. I absolutely adore it, but you guys know this because I'm constantly banging on about it. So it is a
agree.
fantastic malt.
Yeah,
It
it's
is. It
super
really,
cracker.
really is.
Yeah, cracker bread sort of thing you get off. It's incredible.
It's brilliant, and it
Yeah.
seems to just have a fuller flavor compared to a normal Pilsner malt. It's almost like there's 25% more flavor in it. I don't know whether that's just, there's the old story, isn't there, about the man who climbs Everest or some mountain in Nepal, gets to the top and there's 2 cups of coffee, one which is, £1 and one which is £1,000. And the really rich people who climb the mountain buy the £1,000 cup of coffee, and the others buy the £1 cup of coffee, and they can swear that the £1,000 tastes better. And then the old man turns around and says it's all the same beans. It's just whatever it is that you pay is always going to have that effect on your brain that you're getting a better product.
The definition of value.
I don't know. Exactly. Personally, though, having tasted the two of them side by side, I definitely have come to the conclusion that the floor malted is a better Pilsner malt.
I think the only way to find out is through some sort of scientific triangle test, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe that's the subject of a very specific future podcast.
That'd be cool.
Might be in the
That's
making.
definitely going to take us down the routes. That's definitely going to take us down the route of a brewlosophy type podcast, though, isn't it?
It would.
I swore that we would never turn into brewlosophy, but I do believe that's something that would have value to our listeners.
So here's a question.
Crushing this beer.
For me.
Here's a question. Munich malt. So it's quite a few of the maltsters will produce Munich malt, right? So it's not just German maltsters that will produce Munich malt. Am I right in saying
Crisp
that?
do it. Fawcett's do it.
Yeah.
What was the one that we used to use when we were brewing? Begins with an M. Is it an M?
Minch?
I can't remember. No, I can't remember. They're down south somewhere anyway. But yeah, they were the ones that we used to use.
Murphy's?
To buy
No. Murphy's is the distribution, isn't it? Murphy's and Sons.
I want to say Marston's.
Right.
I can't remember who it was anyway. But we used to use theirs. And it was a decent enough Munich malt. It was nothing to write home about. It was nothing mind-blowing, but it was decent enough for what we were making at the time. So yeah, there are many maltsters who make it. But anyway, go on, Owen. Sorry, I interrupted you mid-flow.
No, as you were answering the question just around, like Munich malt, obviously
Muntons.
is Muntons. Munich malts, obviously, it is a German malt, but obviously it's just the technique of kilning and drying that they replicate to sort of reproduce, which is interesting. But I guess what's the key message here, really, in terms of for our listeners, where if you're interested in creating an authentic German beer style, do you have to be using the maltsters that we mentioned, Weyermann's, Dingermann's, Best Malt?
If you want, that's what it's all down to. If you want to guarantee good quality, then yes. But if you want to just mess about and maybe just give it a wee shot or something, and you're not on your A game or anything, you're just, chucking in a plastic fermenter and not doing temp control or whatever, yada yada, then is there any point sort of? It's like when you start to get, when you've got all the controls in place, like we have, right, then why not? Because if it makes a better product, then yes, but if you're still kind of early in your homebrew game, it probably would still massively help, to be fair. But it depends, on how much you can spend in your hobby as well.
So I think I speak for myself. I think I probably only the last sort of probably since we've started the podcast where we've started to talk more about malt, more about maltsters. I've actually started to pay more attention to the fact that is very different.
Yeah.
And therefore, for a couple of years, I was just like, well, it says Munich malt on the bag.
Yeah.
And the recipe says Munich malt.
That's it.
I'm done,
Greece is the one that I tend to use for Munich.
So the reality is actually that the key message, I think, for our listeners is if you are going to be brewing a very specific style, to pay attention to the maltsters that have produced the malt that you're going to use.
Depends where you're getting it.
Because it does make a difference.
Definitely.
Owen, you might
I'd agree with that, Owen.
But then it's like when you go into your, say, when I started off, I wasn't bulk buying, so I was buying maybe from, recipe kits, and it doesn't even tell you who the maltster is. It just tells you it's Munich malt or whatever. So then and then when it turns up, it just says Munich malt. It doesn't tell you it was, Crisp or whoever that was the maltster.
Yeah, it's true.
As you go on, I think, and I think a lot of homebrew shops are getting better at it, and they label who it is. So I know the malt miller definitely labels up who the maltster is, and you can get different varieties now on that. The homebrew company as well is quite good, where they tell you who the maltster is. But it just depends what's in stock and all that as well, and shipping. You want to buy everything from the one blooming website, so you save on. You don't want to be buying here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. So you have to sometimes make a bit of a sacrifice.
Yeah, I see. I quite like using. Well, I used to use Cross My Leaf quite a lot. And their
malt selection isn't great.
No, it's not. You're right, and I think they rarely put down what the maltster is. Get a Brewed, I think, don't tend to put the maltster down. They do on the website.
No, they do.
You order
they are now. I don't think at the start
when it arrives on the bag, they don't tend to specify who the maltster is. They tend to just sort of scribble something with a pen.
Well, when I put my order in, I made sure it was all Weirmann malts for my Vienna and Munich that I bought from them. And it was like a 5 kilo sack, like a 5 kilo sort of thing. And
so I think if you've got a good memory, or you happen to log your malt inventory into Brewfather or whatever, then it's all good. But it's like you might order a load of stuff, and then like a few months later you pull this bag of grain out and you're like,
that'll do.
You may not necessarily know what maltster it's from. Anyway, I think that's just a minor nuisance.
No, I don't think it's minor at all, Owen. I don't think that's a minor point in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of people who, when they're first going down the journey of homebrewing, because let's face it, we are not aiming this podcast at people like Harry, who clearly knows his shit. He's producing commercial beers.
Maybe and to be fair,
I doubt he's learning anything from this podcast except for the fact that ABK is a beer that ABK is a brewery that I absolutely adore. But I do think that when you start your homebrew journey, you'll do exactly what I did. Well, that's the cheapest. That's what I'm having. If I can get a bag of crisp Marisotta, and I can get 25 kilos of it crushed delivered to my house for 23 quid, which is what I got the first one for, I'm going to do that because it's 23 quid. And if it's shit, and if it's a hobby I don't like, and if it's a beer that I think is wank, then I'm going to move off and I'm going to buy something else. But I've got 25 kilos to use, which at that time for me, considering I was using maybe 2.5 kilos for a batch, that's 10 batches. So I've got 10 batches to get through this beer. So I'm going to need some stuff to put in it to make it taste better. A lot of people are going to come at it from that route. And a lot of people still do exactly what you're doing, which is they buy a certain amount of a malt, which is right there. They buy 5 kilos. They don't know where it's come from because a lot of places never used to. A lot of places do now.
Yeah,
But a lot of places never used to label who was producing their malt.
Yeah.
And I mean, Harry's just basically said that both you and Owen have made great points that ingredients are cheap enough for people like us, hobby brewers, to pay attention to the kind of thing of, I can buy floor malted Bohemian Pilsner.
Yeah.
I can buy Weyermann's Munich. I can buy this. I can buy that. And to be fair, that's where we come from. If Harry was to buy floor malted Bohemian Pilsner and make 3 batches of a Pilsner, he would have to charge probably, what, 7 or 8 quid a can for it? Now, it's Harry. Everybody loves him. His beers are fantastic. We'd probably pay that. But the reality is, if XYZ Brewery...
as well.
Exactly. If XYZ Brewery in, I don't know, fucking Todmorden decided that they were going to use floor malted Bohemian Pilsner and pimp it as that shit, there's maybe, what, 2%, maybe 1% of the people who are going to drink that beer who are going to know what the hell difference that means.
Yeah.
Floor malted, oh, that's been made on floor. I'm not having that. It'll be dirty. That's what a lot of people are going to think. And
yeah,
we know enough.
I don't want something off the floor.
Exactly. We have enough knowledge. We have enough information to know that that's a good thing. The vast majority of other people are going to think, that's off the floor. I ain't eating that.
Because don't forget, so malt.
So, yes.
Chris, you're talking about malting, but then you've also got the actual barley itself and, you know, the product,
exactly. The different
the
varieties.
Production, see the cheaper stuff. That's the stuff that maybe doesn't give as much flavour, but it's high producing on the field. So they get a lot more kind of yield.
Or as much efficiency.
Yeah. So, and efficiency as well. So, ones that actually give flavour maybe are only maybe the Germans have still kept a hold of them because they, that's what they value. But in the UK, I think you might find that we're only now starting to move back towards the flavour thing. I know Golden Promise is definitely one of those kind of malts that are gives a lot more flavour rather than yield as such. But because what's the one? Is it Propino or something? Is one of the barleys or something?
Propino's the new name for Golden Promise.
Is it? Is that what it is?
I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. Simon Seaton will correct me on that one if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is the new name from Muntons for Golden Promise.
But there's all these different
it's one of them
things
things.
High yield and stuff, and it's all about a balance. So it's
I'll tell you the last
for the flavour for some stuff because it doesn't yield as much.
Exactly, but the last batch of floor malted Bohemian Weyermann Pilsner that I bought came in the sack that it came from the actual maltsters in, and it said the origins of the malt. It told me the expected yield. It gave me all the details, moisture content, Littner value, blah 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 blah. It gave me everything. And to be fair, that helped me. I could plug those values into my brewing calculator. I could get a more reasonable expectation of extraction efficiency that I was going to get from that malt. And that's a wonderful thing. And to be fair, I think if you just to kind of level off this point, to kind of draw a line underneath this particular bit, because we've been banging on about this for 20 minutes now.
Yeah, we need to watch. You know, Liz.
I think. Sorry, I've just burped because that beer was really well carbonated. I think one of the things to take into account is if you want a beer that is true to a specific country's style, use the malts from that specific country. Because otherwise, you're going to make a Kolsch, and then you're going to buy a Kolsch, and you're going to try the Kolsch that you've bought versus the Kolsch that you've made. And yes, there will be some difference, but I think the reality is there's going to be so much of a difference. Different malts, different hops, different yeast, different water, different this, different that. All of a sudden, you're going to end up with a beer which is nothing like what you're aiming for from the commercial varieties. So I think that's a big thing to underline. For the hobby brewer, sorry, I've just gave credit. Oh no, that is it's Graham Hughes who's actually still there. Graham, are you still watching? You were from the beginning, mate. Well done. 2 hours, Jesus. This is one of the things that I say to people who I've helped to start home brewing, because there's people who my wife works with who started home brewing, and I've gone in and I've helped them, and I've told them, look, if you're planning on making this particular style, it comes from this country. Try these hops and this type of malt. And this is going to give you the closest approximation to that beer, because that's where the flavor comes from. No, I'm never going to say use the BJCP guidelines to correct anything. This is a fucking ballet contest, and I'm not interested. I don't know who you are, Jay Falk, but I love you. I love you. You're great. You're a very funny man. But no, BJCP can go fuck itself. So there we go. Andy's got his headphones on just at the point where I said that. Now, Owen's back. He's had a piss. Andy's back. He's had a piss. The world is wonderful. Let's talk about hops. In fact, you guys can talk about hops while I go and drain the snake. All right.
Who was? Yeah. Okay. No bother. So there's four kind of main varieties of hops. The kind of noble hops, which is Hallertau, Saz, Bolt, and Tettnang, which is noble means like they're kind of the origin hops. But we've kind of had a lot of different ones off the back, so there's been a kind of lot of hop development in Germany, I would say. Would you agree on? Where you kind of the Hallertau stuff, we kind of had Hallertau Blancs, a kind of more recent one. Mandarina Breveria is probably a new one as well. So, but anyway, so all four have German names, although Saz is grown in the Czech Republic, where it is called Zatek, I think is how you say it, and is grown in the region of Hallertau. And was it? They're all pretty much grown in Hallertau region in Bavaria, and Hallertau hops have a floral undertones with a strong spicy flavour. I think Tettnang as well is quite a spicy one. Saz, they're kind of all spicy, I would say, to a certain extent. Saz is like that kind of classic, Pilsner, like Pilsner Urquell sort of. That's obviously Czech, but it's that's where I would, if I was thinking Saz, that's the beer I would straight away go to.
I think for the large part, they're sort of relatively low alpha-acid hops. They bitter beautifully. They carry a lot of depth in terms of character, and they are ultimately the hop that characterizes lager, really, right?
Style, yeah.
And you're beginning to see a lot of American lagers using American hops, Northern Brewer, Liberty, Nugget, those sorts of hops.
Northern Brewer, yeah.
But of course, when you talk about noble hops, many of the hops that we know now in all varieties are kind of spawn off, very few varieties.
All of them are.
Yeah, and ultimately from those, they're like the OG of the hop world.
Just like Germany's the OG of beer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the
Well,
original
we had
gangster
that debate.
people.
We had the debate about whether South American was maybe.
Warsteiner. Oh, I'm sorry. Andy has just busted out the Warsteiner. Das ist sehr gut, yeah?
Can I just say I've busted out the Admonson Lervig chocolate covered peanut butter and toffee sundae white pastry stout.
Can I just say that sounds like the beer that least complies with the Reinheitsgebot I've ever heard?
Yeah, I've gone like anti-Reinheitsgebot. How was that pronunciation? I said I wouldn't say it again, and I did.
Wait, I'm gonna being corrected by Simon Seaton. So Simon, which one is Prepino?
See, I thought that was the high
Prepino.
yield one. I thought
which
Prepino
one is
was
that? He's
going
to tell me. He'll post. It's Simon Seaton. By the way, Simon Seaton's just got a new job, and I want to congratulate him on it because he's now head brewer at Thornbridge Brewery, which is in Yorkshire. Is it Thornbridge? No, it's not Thornbridge. No, that's a completely different brewery. Which one is it, Simon? Come on, post up. It's not Thornbridge. It's definitely not Thornbridge. It's in Keighley or near Keighley.
You got to bear in mind.
I can't remember the name of it, but he's now the head brewer there. So well done, Simon. You've landed on your feet there, son. Well done. I'm still waiting for my beers. I was expecting to be able to drink some of them on this podcast, but he's not delivered them yet.
Shocking.
Why can't beer taste like beer? Well, this beer did before I drank all of it. This beer does taste like beer. Tastes like alt beer. Right. Let's move on. I think we're getting a bit too involved in a conversation with the people on YouTube. We love you all. You're amazing. You guys have covered all the hops, have you?
Yeah, kind of, but I wouldn't mind a wee bit of your knowledge, Chris.
Well, I think Hallertau is an interesting subject to explore because there are a number of different versions of the Hallertau hop. You got obviously the classic Hallertau Mittelfrüh, and then you've got
that's the name of the brewery, Bridge House Brewery. Bridge House. Yes. Great little brewery, actually, and they're doing bottles, so you can order them off of their website. It's another one that I would recommend. They normally ship to a lot of pubs. The brewery itself owns a lot of pubs, but some of their beers are really, really, really good. They're very much, traditional beers, but, Andy loves his Air Brewing Company, and Bridge House Brewery is a very, very good one. Very, very good. Especially now Simon's there as well, because, he's all right. He's all right as a brewer, is our Simon. So, you can order from Bridge House with.
Are you going to challenge him to a Dunkles?
High praise.
No, I'm not going to challenge Simon to anything because he's got about 15 years on me when it comes to brewing experience. But yeah, he's a good lad, is Simon. I like Simon. So, he picks his nose a bit too much, but he's all right.
So the Hallertau I've been using, is it Hersbrucker?
Yeah, Hersbrucker.
And then you've got Hallertau Mittelfrüh.
That's right.
So what's the difference, Chris?
And Hallertau Blanc, Hallertau Magnum.
It's
essentially, it is a selective
Hallertau Taurus.
Selective breeding program.
I'm just it'd be interesting what the difference between Mittelfrüh and Hersbrucker. I don't know.
So Hallertau Mittelfrüh is around about 9% alpha acid.
Oh wow!
And Hallertauer Hersbrucker is about 3 to 3.5.
Yeah.
Essentially, what happens is they test so they'll do selective breeding. So you'll get some plants that will mutate. There'll be a point mutation somewhere within the genome, and they'll produce more of the alpha acid. They will basically they'll it's like the difference in cock size between some men and others. Bearing in mind, we pretty much all come from the same original mutation somewhere in the line in monkeys. Okay, and over the line, the Millingtons. We got the shitty end of the stick. All right, I get embarrassed by fucking gerbils.
It was Adam. Then obviously,
I'll give up. So the reality is, we descended from monkeys. Okay, and I appreciate that everybody's got their religious views and everything, but this has been proven genetically. We came from the Rift Valley in Ethiopia. So unless Jerusalem has fucking moved,
alien
No,
lizard
I
people are
don't-
unless
actually.
Jerusalem has fucking moved, right? We came from Ethiopia. Now the
Right, go
reality
on.
is, different things evolve in different ways, and evolution is a real thing. And as much as I know this is going to piss off some people, I don't care. The reality is, we were not made in 7 days. Okay, on the seventh day, you did not fucking
7
rest.
million years, mate.
We came from Ethiopia. 7 million years. Get to fuck. I've
Over
got
7
shit in
million.
my house that's older than that. Yeah, okay. Is this because
Anyway,
you added up the ages of everyone in the Bible? Yeah.
I hate it when
move on.
Mummy and Daddy argue.
Let's move away. Let's move away from this. So you get a point mutation, and one plant will all of a sudden produce a hell of a lot more alpha acid than the others. Just like you'll produce a hell of a lot more linolene, it'll produce a hell of a lot more of something else, and that's why you
I'm
end
not
up
asking
with
that. I was
Cascade
talking
and
about
Citra
flavour.
and blah 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 blah.
I was talking about flavour.
Calm down.
But it sounds like
He's gone science.
I've just
explained it.
Mittelfrau sounds like a
literally just
good
explained
bittering hop. It sounds like a good bittering hop.
No,
No?
it can be used as a bittering hop, but it's fantastic at about 15 minutes.
Right, okay.
It really is. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, Magnum is great for bittering.
Yeah. that's
Really
what-
high alpha.
Generally, that's what I use.
Mittelfrau. Throw Mittelfrau in at 15 minutes. It's a fucking banger. It really is. You know, it's that girl that you met at college who said, you know, you're not sleeping tonight. It's one of them. It's a banger. You know, I'm a Stein and a half in. Cut me some slack. But it's one of them.
So good.
You know, Andy's like, I know that girl. It's an absolute.
I was that
it's a
girl.
cracker. Yeah, I bet you were. But the other thing as well is the different varieties of Hallertau. You've got Blanc, Magnum, Hersbrucker, Mittelfrau. Those are the four that I know of. There's probably others. But the reality is all of the hops that we play about with and we use, and the Citras and the Simcoes and all the other stuff,
Yeah.
they have to come from the nobles.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
They have to. And in the same way that every hop which is produced in New Zealand seems to have a limey flavour to it, according to me and Tricky, because it does, all of these different hops, depending on where they're grown, will produce different things. I mean, look at Cascade. I come back to this because I've done it before. UK Cascade is shit, and I never, ever, ever want to fucking use it again. American Cascade is decent, and New Zealand Cascade is called Taiheki because it's a completely different hop. You have so many factors that go into the production of these endogenous compounds within these plants based upon the minerals, the air, the soil, the moisture content, the amount of sun that they get, the amount of infrared radiation that there is within that sunlight. All of these things contribute to a different flavor from the hop. And that's all you're looking at when you're looking at selective breeding. This particular hop plant gave me 6% alpha compared to this plant, which gave me 1.8%. I'm going to use this 6%. I'm going to mix it with this particular other one, which gave me 9%, and we'll see what happens in 2 years' time. That is basically all selective breeding is.
Right, Chris.
Okay, it's the same way that we ended up with the fucking dachshund from a wolf.
Right, let's not go too detail in
No, because I'm getting into science here.
You're just
I'm getting
science.
into
I want to
science.
talk about like what do you recommend that you would get if say like we're all wanting to get into German beers and German brewing. What do you want in your arsenal, in your hop fridge?
There's 4 hops. There's
Go
4
for it.
hops, and you
Go
can
for it.
pretty much cover everything. Tetnang,
Yep.
because until you've had a Hefeweizen which has been bittered and 30-minuted with Tetnang, you've never lived.
Prost. I
You
did
need
one.
Pearl.
Prostweizen. I did, and it had Tetnang in it, Chris. Oh, perfect.
I know. You don't have to tell me, son. I know these things. You need Pearl, because Pearl is one of those hops that you can basically make 4 different countries worth of beer with Pearl hops. And the best part about all these nobles as well is if you go get a brood, you can get a fucking kilo of it for under 20 quid. All right, so you're no messing
So
about.
cheap.
Exactly.
But then-
Mittelfru
but
was
then-
£17.
I don't think I'd
£17 a
recommend,
kilo.
Chris. We're not brewing Ipas here. We're brewing with 20 grams per batch. Of each 20 grams.
What are you on about?
A kilo of pearl is going to last you a lifetime. You're not.
You see this
putting
glass?
200 grams of
You
pearl
see this glass?
in a brew.
You
Yeah,
see this
yeah, I
glass?
see it, I see
This
your
had an
glass.
alt beer in it.
Yeah.
Do you know the total amount of hops that went into that beer?
Was it 80?
135 grams.
Okay, so that's not groundbreaking. You're going to take a while.
It's
to crack through.
135 grams. You buy a kilo, that's 10 batches. In fact, it's not even 10 batches, it's 8 batches.
Yeah, but you're
It's
not
not
going
even
to
8
brew.
batches, it's 7 batches.
Most home brewers, Chris, aren't brewing the same beer
10
10 times in a row, are they?
Yeah, I would get 100 grams. I would get
Well,
100 gram
Andy said-
baggies of like all these different ones, and then that lets you brew 2 or
Can
3
I draw
times.
the defense has an objection. Andy said, which hops should you have in if you want to brew German beers? If you want to brew German beers,
As a home brew.
then you're going to need Tettnang. You're
Yep.
going to need Pearl. You're going to need Saz, and you're probably going to need Hallertauer Mittelfru. Or there's going to be about 8 styles that you're not going to be able to do legitimately and authentically anyway. That's what it comes down to. You need those 4 hops: Hersbrucker, Pearl, Saz, Mittelfru, and Tettnang.
Pearl's a nice hop. Where does that come from then? In terms, it's not a noble hop.
I think Pearl is a sister hop to, or a daughter hop rather, of Saz.
Is it?
You can put Spalt in that list as well.
Oh, so you can.
You can put Spalt in there.
Yeah, that's an original noble. Spalt.
But it all comes down to
Spalt select.
what beers you want to make. So yeah, I agree. Buying a kilo of ending up with 5 kilos of hops in your freezer. It's probably. I mean, I've got
Get
about
a kilo of Citra,
13. I've got 13 or 14 kilos in my freezer. But I've got a 7-foot chest freezer, so I've got space. But it all comes down to what you want to make. If you're making lagers, if you're not putting Saz and Pearl in, as far as I'm concerned, you're doing it wrong. That's just me. If you're going to make an
Saz
authentic
is so
Pilsner
good.
and you're not putting Saz and Pearl in, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm
It's
gonna
one of
move
those
us-
things.
I'm going
all
to
right?
move us on. I'm going to move us on from hops. I think we've covered that.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's
one.
We're being moved on by Daddy.
yeah,
Thanks, Daddy.
that's all right. No, actually, I'll probably sound more like the petulant teenage son, but
Yeah.
acidulated
It's
malt.
so unfair.
This is a good one, Owen, because
I hate you.
obviously you can't use, if you're going to do it to the German purity law, the Reinheitsgebot, then you have to use acidulated malt, don't you? Because none of that lactic or phosphoric acid, if you're going to do it right, you need to use acidulated malt. So basically, I'm never going to brew to the German purity laws is what's happening. Do you guys use acidulated malt, or would you just put your lactic or phosphoric?
I just use acid.
Phosphoric in.
Yeah.
I mean, with many respects, you're probably talking about the hypocrisy, I guess, of the purity law there, where you're sort of saying, well, if you're sort of treating malt with lactic acid, or you're going through an organic process to create lactic acid, really you're just talking about getting to the same result anyway. But again, that comes back to my question
Hang on,
about
I'm having an argument with Simon.
how closely.
Keep going. I'm having an argument with Simon.
Yeah, we'll talk about acidulated malt.
How closely are you kind of are Germany worrying about their purity laws?
I don't know. I think you
We need a German. We need a German to talk about this.
to be fair,
Where's Ivan Juggins?
he's
I believe
Aussie.
he's he's Australian.
Yeah, he's an Aussie.
Tits.
He's currently using my videos so he can get to sleep at night, I think. with his newborn child.
Not surprised. You do have very dulcet tones,
Yeah,
Andy.
sort of. No, that's it.
I think that's one of them things, isn't it? You know, it's like acidulated malt is a wonderful way to get around a law.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think it's a wonderful way to get around it. And to be fair, it does comply with the Reinheitsgebot. It does allow you to alter the pH value of your mash. It's not going to affect your colour, especially if you're making a German beer, because your base malt is going to be quite low colour anyway. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, I look at the Germans and the way that they've actually come about this, and I think, do you know what? You did all right. You did all right out of
Do you
this.
need it?
You
I
did a
wonder
good
if they
job.
do need it. I wonder because
Well,
of
the
water
thing is, if you're not
profiles in
allowed
the
to add
areas-
acid,
Yeah.
can you imagine producing
Oh, you can't even add water minerals.
a bohemian? You can't. You can't add anything.
That's why
You can't add anything.
But going back to like the styles of beer that are brewed around Germany, it's going to be partly influenced by,
area.
you know, the
the
water of
water.
Dortmund is way harder than it is in Bavaria because
Yeah, and
you
that's
know,
why-
so that's how the styles are kind of coming about.
It's mad, isn't it?
There's a historical reference in almost everything to do with beer.
Yeah, there is.
There really is. Burton-on-Trent and the dark beers, Scotland and the lagers.
You
know,
can do the lagers. That's the
Pilsen.
thing.
Exactly, and that's the wonderful thing. And you know, it's kind of one of those local businesses for local people using local ingredients, almost brewing beer. It's wonderful. So anyway, I'm very, 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 and Owen's just highlighted it because he's an awesome person. I'm very aware of the time of this podcast, and I'm sure that the guys who are listening in on YouTube are kind of, you know, they're having their own conversations, and it's a wonderful thing. And it's nice for Harry and Simon to actually get together. But what beers have you made from the German plethora, and what's your experiences of brewing those beers? I'm going to throw this one to Owen because he's basically not talked for 45 minutes.
That's not true. I talked about
Yeah.
2.5 minutes ago. Mostly I was mediating you two from having a full-blown argument.
Thanks, Daddy. Thank you.
Thanks, son.
My experience, and I'll keep it short, which means 25 minutes or so, is pretty limited. I haven't brewed that many German lager styles. I brewed the Schwarzbier on the live brew day, as Andy did, which actually was a Schwarzbier that was probably, in fairness, anglicized
Yeah.
in some respects. But it was still, you know, a lager yeast used, and that was a really nice brew. I think it was just a sort of craft updated version of Schwarzbier.
It's
I
excellent.
really
though.
enjoyed that. It was
It's a-
excellent. It was very
I think
good.
I think that one was when you. It's not about the hops. I mean, the hops was Sriracha Ace and stuff, but
Yeah,
I don't think that beer was about the hops. It really was about the malts.
it was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the hops played a supporting role, but Sriracha Ace was probably the outlier in terms of what was used in there. I've made a
It's
Kolsch
because it's a
before.
horrific hop.
Well, it is a horrific hop. It was just not used in a large way, so I won't dive into that too much. But I've made a Kolsch before. I've made one Kolsch. I didn't really enjoy it. I did end up making it with pale malt, I think, rather than Pilsner malt. This is going back some time, which was not really a good move. And I think
Yeah, I must have
everyone knows my experiences with Hefeweizens. And that wraps up my section of this discussion. Move on.
Well, can I just say that you have made, and this is purely for the guys on YouTube, you have made a Hefeweizen. Is that one of those moments, Owen? Yeah, I thought so. Andy, what have you made?
So I'm just looking at a list. I've done a so far in the past. I did a St Mungo's clone, which was a Hellas lager, and it was definitely, it had that kind of Munich thing to it, but it was nice. and then I've now got another Helles sitting right next to me, and the Fermenter King Junior getting used as a keg, so that's conditioning. I've also in the fridge I've got the Marzen that Chris gave us the recipe for, so I brewed that, which seems to be at the moment. Both beers are very young and not drinkable at the moment because they're still very, very bready and yeasty, I think's the thing. It just needs that. It just feels like you can tell there's this awesome beer underneath. It just needs that sort of yeasty, bready thing just to just calm the hell down a little bit, which it will. I just know it. And they'll be both absolute bangers. Also on the podcast to start, we did the Schwarz beer, which was excellent. And another one I did was a Hefe, and I think it's on. I picked it up off Beersmith at the time, and it was called Prost Weizen, and it had Technine as it in it, and it was so cheap to make, and it was so good. Like it was unbelievably good during the kind of spring going into summer time. And I've always said I wanted to rebrew that, but I've always just been on this adventure of constantly trying new styles and all that. So it will be one I go back to because it was so good. But yeah, I'm on a bit of a German adventure at the moment, obviously, with the Bock coming up next as well. So looking forward to it. And yeah. So what about yourself,
That's pretty sweet.
Chris?
Me, I think of all of us, I've got the most experience of
Yeah.
making German style beers. So obviously I've made an alt beer a few times. Absolute banger, proper crushable beer. I've made many FAs. I've brewed a couple of Kolsch's. Wasn't that overly enamored with the first version of it, but the second version was very, very good. I've made a couple of Helles. Again, the first one was shit and went down the drain. It was that bad. The second one, however, was a really. It kind of was, yeah. I've drained a few beers in my time,
Okay.
but the Helles was definitely the water. The second one, however, was the entire keg after lagering lasted exactly 14 days. I've made an Eisenbach, which I've got to admit was a if I didn't love the box style of beer, I don't think I would have ever made one of them. I made 10 liters of it, and I ended up after the freeze process with 6.5 liters. Yeah, that took a while to get through, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've made a single Munich Dunkel. That is on the list to be revisited because I wasn't overly impressed with the actual version that I made. I do believe I put, for want of a better term, too much Saz in it, and I should have gone heavier on the Tetnang, to be fair. And I've made like 9 different versions of my Marzen.
Yeah.
The last 6 of which have all been perfect as far as I'm concerned. There was a slight change for version 8, which I told Andy about, and he's got the recipe for the 8th. The 9th was just a remake of that same one. So, yeah, I've made quite a few of the German styles. I do really, really, really enjoy German beers because, as I've said before, I'm very much a malt forward kind of guy. And I do like my noble hops.
I wouldn't know that. I would have thought you were more of a let's chuck half a kilo at it.
Oh yeah, I'm
to be honest.
Well, when I make my IPLs, it's anywhere from 400 to 700 grams of hops. But yeah, for the German styles, I tend to stick with the nobles, and I tend to stick with a more reasonable hopping rate. Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, that's where you get a lot of flavour from.
Of all the beers you make, Chris, say within a year, what percentage are German style beers?
Jesus. Last year, probably 45%, 40%.
Right, okay.
Because you like your English styles as well, don't you? You like to brew bitters.
Yeah, I like my bitters, porters, stouts. Yeah, I do. Yeah, but I do tend to lean quite heavily on the German styles, and I think that's because they're just very drinkable. And when you don't get much time to drink, like I don't, I'm not one who drinks every day. But when I do get a chance to come down here on a Friday night and I do sort of get a chance to fire up the PC, it's not uncommon for me to have, a couple of steins of beer whilst I'm playing Warzone. It's not uncommon for me to have 2 or 3 steins of beer whilst I'm playing Red Alert 2 or Red Alert.
Classic.
It's crazy. Got to get those Teslas in. It's one of those things where you kind of, everybody gravitates towards the kind of beer that they like, don't they? Even the brewers and the breweries tend to gravitate towards the styles of beer that they like. Owen is most definitely a Nipah double dry hop kind of guy with maybe a dipper in it. He's one of those kinds of guys, and I can respect that. It's not my style, but I can respect that that's what Owen likes. Andy, I've yet to nail down your style. I think you're still in your Wanderlust kind of stage where you're brewing a bit of everything.
Yeah, I would say
there's a lot of people where you can. I mean, Graham Preston's exactly the same. But pale ales.
But then, like you say, I am on an adventure at the moment. The kind of early years of trying to find what I like, and having a YouTube channel as well. You always want to be mixing it up for folks, so you're not like, if you were to rebrew something, then it would need to be about, how do you make it better, all that sort of thing. Whereas it's more about the moment.
It doesn't have to be though, does it?
Well, if you're just brewing something exact same, if you're doing version 8 of a brew, it's hardly interesting for a YouTube audience.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't.
That's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is you can make a beer which is for you, which is not for your YouTube audience.
No, it's always for me, but then it has to have a slant on it that it's not, I'm just going to do another vacant gesture again sort of thing,
So I think...
so you're not...
I think the point Andy's making...
You're not brewing for you then?
There's probably another vector here that's being added in, the fact that Andy's committed to his YouTube channel and he has to think about the content that people want to see, therefore it influences the way that he brews.
So the whole German series is
a great thing
to do a whole series of beers purposely as German. I would maybe not have done, because I would just went and brewed maybe, I don't know, a pale or something or whatever. But because I can do something on it, then it's purposely done as a series of German type beers, which is really cool. And for me, it's great because I get to drink loads of German beers, and see when all that stuff's conditioned, and I'm just like, well, all these great beers that are crushable, that'll be great. So
I think
that will be party time.
Party time. That will be Oktoberfest at the High Road Brewery, I think.
Yeah, book me the flight, Andy.
Exactly.
No, but I know what you're saying, Chris. I naturally gravitate towards hoppy beers because I know that's what I like. But equally,
you're not the only one, mate.
But yeah, and I think a lot of us brewers are in the same place. But equally, I do like to explore as best I can. I think, that's part of the reason why I went out with my recent YouTube video about my 250 subscriber video to say, give me some suggestions around styles. And actually, there was a lot of styles on there that I wouldn't otherwise brew. I've never brewed, other than a Saison, I've never brewed a Belgian beer. I haven't really brewed much, as I've said, in terms of German style beers. So actually, I think I'm kind of forcibly pushing myself through, much the same motivation as Andy, with a YouTube content stream is
Yeah.
brewing some alternative styles. And I think actually the live brew days have been good for that as well. Because
Absolutely, I'd agree with that.
it's quite easy as a home brewer to get into a rut of these are the styles of beer I like. I like hoppy beers, and I will make pale ales, or I'll make IPAs, or I'll make Ipas. But equally, is you're probably denying yourself the variety of life by not exploring a whole load of other different styles of beer.
Yeah.
Because I think actually,
I do
equally-
have some friends that I wish thought the same way.
Yeah, I know, Chris, you're not keen on the idea of like a calendar brewing or whatever, but you know, for some home brewers, if they do explore lagers and they start to nail lagers, or equally they explore lagers in different ways and they brew maybe a Dunkel and then a Pilsner or a Helles or whatever, they start to figure out that, you know, actually I could brew the Helles in April and it's going to be absolutely golden for June when the weather starts to get better. And that's when I'm really going to want to appreciate that beer, you know. And I think if you don't do that, you're at risk of just getting bored of home brewing at some stage because you're just making the same thing.
Keep talking because I need to go and have another piss. I broke the seal way too early. Back in a minute.
So
Yeah, I agree, Owen. There is a thing about the kind of brewing calendar where we take the piss on it, but I mean, when in the winter we want to drink our dark beers, don't we? And then when we get into summer, we do want to drink kind of lighter, like even a Hefe or something like, you know, like you're saying, like these kind of Pilsners and stuff like that. They do come in those seasons. So
yeah, for me, like I'm looking at my 2021 brew list, and I am probably going to figure out where I want to brew what. Not, you know, I'm not going to go crazy on like I can't brew a sour in December because I will if I want to.
yeah.
But equally, you know, I will brew a big stout in summer if that's what I want to do. But equally, is, you know, there are certain styles that I'm thinking, well, an old ale. Do I really want do I want to drink an old ale in August? I'm just not going to get it
Do
down
you
me.
ever want to drink an
You
old
know?
ale? I don't know.
Well, maybe not. But equally, like an English barley wine, I don't really want to drink that during the summer because I can only drink one, and I'm thirsty.
I wouldn't mind in it. See, like a barley wine, I wouldn't mind it's a beer meal, but to have a keg of barley wine, or see, to be fair, I've got a 7 litre mini keg. You could do a 7 litre mini keg of barley wine maybe, and that would be interesting. But I don't know.
I think interesting's not the right word.
Just no.
Yeah, well,
painful is the
my
right word.
subscribers have screwed me in some respects in terms of they'd like an old ale and a barley wine and you know.
Well, you can
some,
do that as a 1 gallon batch. There's nothing stopping you doing small batch on Crazy Styles as a experimental. I did that for a little bit, and it
stovetop.
stovetop in the house, and it's super quick.
This is one of the things. This is one of the things that me and Tricky have talked about repeatedly. Okay, everybody has their style that they will drink all year round. Martin Underwood, God bless Martin, with his fantastic tash, has just turned around and said, Hefe and Leffe are his favourite all year round beers. Well, I'm not being funny, but both of those are styles of German or very close to German beers. I know Leffe's Belgian, but
Yeah,
it's pretty much the same, you know, and they're both lighter beers. They're not
beers.
exactly
Traditional.
the traditional style beers. And I'm not saying Martin is in any way indicative of the entirety of the UK craft beers or the world craft brewers. But everybody comes back to what they like. Owen's going to hit the dippers. We know this. Andy's going to hit the pale ales. We know this. I'm going to hit the Hefes, the Marzens, and the alt beers. We know this. Okay? Everybody has that style. Nobody wants to drink a 13% Imperial Stout all year round, unless your name is Brian and you happen to be an alcoholic. You don't want to do that. I'm not saying everybody called Brian is an alcoholic before I get any kind of lawsuit, but you know what I'm saying. You can't smash those beers every single day. It's not viable.
Chris, is it no the
You're not going to get
champagne?
up for work after you've had 3 pints. Exactly. The champagne. It's one of those situations. Okay. So let's call an end to this. We're nearly 2.5 hours in.
Yeah, we are.
We've covered German beers.
We have.
We have covered as much as we know about German beers. We're not saying that we covered everything because clearly we haven't. Please, guys, give German beers a shot. You may not be a fan of lager, but if you're basing your theory of lagers off of Carling and fucking Foster's, first off, what the fuck are you doing listening to our podcast? Secondly, there is a whole world of lagered. There is a world of lagered beers out there. And I can guarantee you within Germany, you will find a style that flicks your bean, tickles your cricket, and makes you think, Jesus Christ, I need another pint of that. Okay? I think that's what we're coming down to. Germany would not have had laws that regulate what you can put in the beers from that country if it did not do things correctly. Okay? Yeah. Harry, thanks for coming on. Simon, we love you. J Fork, you're a legend. Martin, don't ever shave your tash off. I think German beers is in the bag, boys. I think we can take that one.
Cool. Give a little round of applause for that monologue.
I'm here all week. Try the fish. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Hop Edition, we're done. Bye-bye.
Over and out.